Howdy, howdy,
Hi.
and welcome to But It Was Aliens, the paranormal comedy podcast where we probe around the globe, examining paranormal activity to determine, for the questionable benefit of humanity, whether that activity really was paranormal. My name is Mr. Kev in the John, and alongside me on this probe stool with no idea what we'll be covering today is Mr. Granville Moonwalker, baby! Today, we are heading towards Newcastle in the United Kingdom, a place myself and Mr. Moonwalker have indeed visited.
Yes, that we have. Wandering around for
Several minutes. I was going to say
I
hours.
was about to say
It wasn't that
many an hour, but it wasn't. It's a bloody long time trying to find a location.
long. Was it the Alchemy Bar or something we couldn't
Yes.
find? Yeah.
Just so someone could go in there and have one drink.
To be fair, that place is awesome.
It wasn't awesome enough to wander around for 45 minutes trying to find. Only to find it within 2 minutes the following day.
The following morning when it wasn't open and we were about to go home. Anyway, we begin today's case in 1940s. The year was 1940. Woo! Robert Hall was a 5-year-old boy who resided in Gateshead. This was the 1940s. 1940 specifically. So things were a bit more relaxed than they are now in some respects, because Robert was enjoying a day off work and was sitting with a friend outside on a wall watching the local soldiers march off down Saltwell Road to war. I can't imagine a couple of 5-year-olds out by themselves today, like, "See you later, Daddy! I'm off to the pub to have some milkies and cookies!" But anyway, the march went on a while and Robert and his friend started getting cold, so they decided to head back home. Above them in the sky, Robert thought he saw a ball-like structure buzzing around, but that must have just been a trick of the light or part of the soldier presence, right? Even though it was moving ridiculously fast. As the boys headed round a corner and down a back alley towards home, the boys noticed something even more unusual. Ahead of them was a kind of semi-transparent force field or barrier-like, well, I don't know what else you'd call this thing, but the boys couldn't quite see what was inside it. I guess it was almost like catching a glimpse of Predator as it moves, only as an area rather than a creature, or how the air starts moving in front of a fire. These boys were 5, so they obviously headed towards it. Robert didn't even think to call his wife and kids to let them know where he was.
I was about to say, this is coming from a 5-year-old, so you've got to take all of this with like a truckload of salt and
How dare you?
vinegar.
How dare you?
But it's 1940. 5-year-olds were essentially 45 at this point.
Exactly.
So this is a 45-year-old 5-year-old telling us that what he saw is what he saw.
5-year-olds were hard working, hard drinking, hard living.
Just trying to think
This was a man.
what kind of jobs a 5-year-old would have.
Generally a chimney sweep.
1940. Yeah.
Landlord. Mobster. Eh.
Getaway driver.
Driver in general.
They open the door to get out, and they've got cups tied to their feet with strings so they can reach the pedals. So they saw like a predator ship, essentially.
Possibly.
Or was it an orb?
Well, it was a
spherical,
space.
wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't know what it was at this point. Well, I do, but you don't.
So they couldn't see through it. Or they couldn't see into it, but they could kind of see
you know how
through it.
Predator, you could see through him?
Yeah, but it would
Yeah, like
still
that.
be slightly off.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, picture that basically, but in an area.
Large?
Fairly large, yes.
Bigger than a house?
Comparable.
And just slowly moving through this area?
I don't know that I said it was moving.
Okay. I may have just...
You're getting confused with the thing in the sky before. So we had a thing in the sky, and now we've got an area on the ground.
And they didn't alert anyone, they just went...
No, they were 5.
they're 45,
they were
aren't
going
they?
to sort it out.
45 5-year-olds.
They had their gats on them.
No potatoes. Okay, let's see what these 45-year-olds found.
As the boys neared the barrier, they found that they could walk inside it. As they did just that, the boys suddenly saw an egg-like shape above them. A metallic silver craft of about 14 feet in diameter was hovering above this little back alley, obscured by the force field. Before the boys even had a chance to wonder what the egg was doing there, they realised that it wasn't just an egg inside that semi-transparent force field. All around the craft, there were strange figures. Robert tried to count and realised that there were at least 20, but all of them looked different. Some were small and grey and were between 2 and 4 feet. Others, as described by Robert, were tens, tall with white hair but with coats covering bat wings. Another was in a yellow fricking scuba suit. Another still, and there's no getting away from this, was Bigfoot. Yep, big and hairy with cakes. Was this an intergalactic federation? We haven't seen this type of crowd altogether since perhaps our very first episode on David Huggins. I do have a mock-up or two of this gathering via Street of Silence, which I'm just going to show Mr. Moonwalker, and I may also post this on our Instagram @ButItWasAliens, just to illustrate the absolute craziness of this event. Because it doesn't get any better from here, brother. Strap in.
Before I look at it, I honestly thought you were about to say Robert tried to count, but there weren't enough digits on his hands or toes for him to get any higher.
Missed opportunity.
Oh.
This is a proper...
So we've got a picture here of some alien greys, 2 Bigfoots and some blue-suited blondies. There's no yellow scuba suit here, though.
Not in this mock-up, but this is obviously not from someone who's involved, just people like to draw online.
Oh, okay. Oh. And we've got another one where we have a grey.
A Bigfoot typed thing.
We've got a Bigfoot, we've got a grey, we've got a scuba suit, and we have a Redfoot. It's like a Bigfoot with red hair.
And a handlebar moustache.
Yeah. The trouble is...
One of his handlebars has fallen off, though.
Because this has been painted, it's very hard to distinguish what that's meant to be.
The red one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I say, this is just a mock-up, just for fun. Funsies! Woo!
It's almost like there's something wrong with the alien, though. The little grey. It's like we'll draw half of him and then not do the other half properly.
I think they're just doing like an abstract memory art.
No, he just couldn't be bothered. Lazy.
I demand you do better then.
Challenge accepted. Wait, have I got to use paint?
Yes.
Challenge not accepted.
I could see you with an easel.
Yeah. Not with paint, though.
I could see you with paint and an easel. A little hat.
We're going to put a little bush down here. Don't tell anyone. That's our little secret. Oh, I hate paint.
You got no thoughts on the case. I'm just going to move on. As Robert looked around, he noticed that he wasn't the only one witnessing this gathering. There was a group of girls in the alley too, screaming. The girls are trying to get away, climbing the barbed wire fence in front of the railway. Robert was distracted from the girls though because one of the beings spoke to him.
Hi, Robert.
The being spoke in absolutely perfect English as it asked if it could examine Robert and his friend. If I'm ever asked if me and you can be probed, Mr. Moonwalker, I am giving permission for you to be. Crack on, space buddies! Robert was not as good a friend as me because Robert objected to the request.
Hold on.
Regardless, the aliens sucked Robert and his mate off in their craft. The aliens shoved a needle-like device into Robert's neck and calmly told him that if Robert moved, he'd be killed instantly.
I think I'd rather be killed instantly.
After this, the aliens covered the patch where blood had been taken with a jelly-like substance. After about 20 minutes, in which Robert didn't say what else happened, The aliens then told the boys that they could go now and dropped Robert and friend out of the craft. It was probably here that Robert realised that the soldiers were also aware of the craft and one even shot at it. This was war! Robert legged it straight home and told his parents about what had happened.
Ooh. So,
there's nothing to unpick there. Should we move on?
Robert is a better friend than you.
It's not what we said now, is it? That's not what the research said. You got to trust the research.
See, this is why I'm the bestest of best friends. I would have rejected their offer and then just thrown you to them.
The bestest.
I tried to save you. Trip you up as we run away. Get up. Take my strong hand.
This is for science.
So, it's quite... actually, so the soldier shot at the object.
Yes.
Now, was this object the, let's say, translucent space that was on the ground? If so, did they see Robert and the kids walk in and something happened?
So this was war. Soldiers had entered the space and had shot at the craft, the egg space chip thingy that was
so
above.
they had gone into...
Yes.
Okay. Makes sense.
Robert didn't really, in his memories, explain that happening. He just suddenly noticed they were there and firing at it as he came out.
Okay.
So I don't know whether they were in there the whole time or whether they entered whilst he was up losing 20 minutes for unknown reasons or what. But yeah, pegged it, told his parents.
Do we know if they only took Robert and his friend or whether they took the soldiers?
Do not
or
know
the
that.
girls or
No.
anything else? Okay. Do we hear anything from Robert's friend?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Robert's parents didn't believe him, but they also didn't think that Robert was lying. The parents thought that the local soldiers had played a prank on the local kids, and I have to say, if an adult plays a prank resulting in local children trying to climb over barbed wire to escape, that's some frickin' prank. I guess it was tough times. People needed relief, and you know what squaddies can be like, but still, that is extreme. To reiterate, Robert's parents didn't believe it was aliens, but the next day, tap, tap, tap at the door. Robert's family would answer the knock to be greeted by a couple of gentlemen in black suits, black shades, black ties, the first, last and only line of defence against the worst scum of the universe. The men must have either asked to come in or straight up rushed him because the gentleman advised Robert that if he ever spoke about what he saw again, Robert would disappear.
Ooh.
Adults threatening a 5-year-old.
What did they say to the parents?
In fact, that's 2 threats of murder on a 5-year-old we've had in this episode so far.
Yeah, you're quite right. Is it the first one? Technically, is it a threat of murder or is it if you move, you're going to die?
Well,
like it's
a promise.
I'm not going to I'm not going to murder you, but I'm just warning you that you're in a predicament where if you move, you are going to die.
But the children are in a predicament that the person who said that has put them in. So I think they'd still be culpable for murder.
That ruins my plans.
A few days after being threatened by Mibs, Robert thought that things were all over. Robert was having another day off work and was out playing down the back alleys before getting a paper for his dad because he couldn't stop thinking about what he'd seen a few days earlier. You can understand it. If you saw something beyond the general knowledge and capabilities of the world, you may well long for further contact. Like the first time I saw my friend Adam's Nintendo 64, my gosh, I needed more. Let me play Mario, damn it! I must save the princess! All I wanted to do was catch that rabbit. Suddenly, one of those small grey aliens from the other day burst out from nowhere and literally started sprinting towards Robert. Sprinting! We laugh and joke on this podcast, but when you stop and picture this, basically a monster sprinting towards a small child, this is freaking terrifying. Robert bolted it while screaming for help. The alien lunged at Robert and tried to take him, but as the scuffle ensued, Robert managed to bound away. The alien gave chase. Robert darted down the main roads, but nobody was around. The little grey was catching up. Just as the creature was getting near, Robert's uncle Ernie heard the commotion as he was in his garden and was horrified by what he saw going on up ahead. Nobody touches Ernie's family. Uncle Ernie grabbed his coal shovel from beside him in the garden and called to Robert to head that way. Robert tripped up the curb right by Ernie's garden, and as the grey came from behind Robert and dived on top of him, the uncle swung the shovel and absolutely nailed the grey. The grey was out cold and probably dead. This was like a home run strike.
That must have felt so good, like that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Absolutely nailed.
But also, yeah, absolutely terrifying. That to just come out of nowhere and start chasing you.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was smarter, it could have probably just snuck up on him and took him.
Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it, whether Robert accidentally disturbed it doing something and it chased from a distance, pissed off.
It's also...
or whether it was waiting to chase him and it was a bit...
You've also got to wonder, is it animalistic in nature? Same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Good shout, yeah.
It may not be, if we're to put it in simple terms, human and animal. It may not have the intellect to talk and do all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
Might be a grey alien animal.
Absolutely.
I wonder, 1940. Cameras in 1940?
Well, they existed, yes, but not every household had them, not by any stretch.
Do we have...
They didn't come
I mean, we haven't even got to this part yet. But if he's knocked this thing out cold, please tell me he's like tied it up or put it in a bag
Sort
or
of.
done something.
He's done something.
He hasn't like lobbed its head off with the end of the coal fucking...
He's done something.
Took his samurai sword out, put brown sauce on it. Look, alien blood.
I can't be sure whether the uncle double tapped the grey whilst it was out cold on the floor, but whatever happened next, the grey was indeed dead. Robert's uncle sent Robert to get help whilst the uncle rolled the alien up in a sack. Not that the uncle had experience in whacking people. I feel like it's probably the most natural of reactions for most people to roll bodies up, particularly with a child watching on, but moving on. Robert found police officer Sergeant Brooks, and Brooks notified Robert's family about what had happened. Brooks also notified the army, and the army quickly arrived at Ernie's to take the body. When the armed forces arrived, they evacuated the entire neighbourhood, and not only did they take that body to a local church, they did a sweep of all the now empty houses too, looking for more beings. There have been no reports of any further beings found. Full disclosure regarding the alien body, I've seen two accounts. One account says that the alien body disappeared from the church almost instantly, whereas another account suggests that the body was stored at the church for about 3 months. What I can say is that there is a little storage area underneath the church in question.
Ooh. Now, I suppose natural reaction possibly would be to double tap.
This thing meant harm, make sure.
Yeah. But depends on the angle. He might have one hit.
Proper chinned it and, yeah. Or caved its cranium in and, yep.
Snapped its little neck from the...
And remember, it was a little alien as well.
Smaller than Robert?
Comparable.
So he's essentially cracked a 5-year-old with a coal shovel.
I'm not going to say yes to that.
Or a creature the size of a 5-year-old with a coal shovel.
Be more inclined to say yes to that.
Now, you say that there's one account of the body disappearing from the church instantly. Disappeared as in taken away or evaporated of its own accord or just
Unclear.
Proof.
So it's implied they put the body there,
turn around,
looked
turn
like
back, gone?
minutes later, and it was not there anymore.
Ooh.
So someone could have gone in and taken it. I think it's kind of implied that a government or military organisation may have taken it instantly rather than it completely disappearing.
Okay. So the aliens didn't come and take it back.
But as no one saw that happen, who's to
No
say?
one knows.
We know the military were in the area, obviously.
They're always in the area.
They're here right now.
All right.
As you can imagine, Robert was absolutely ripped for these claims as he got older. Despite this, Robert stood strong on his story for decades and had even been left with a triangular mark on his cheek from the encounter until he was about 13. Eventually, in more recent times, UFO researcher Richard Hall, no relation, tracked down Robert Hall's sister, Rhoda, to ask her if she could corroborate the story. Surprisingly, Robert's sister did indeed confirm that during this time, the family were visited by loads of unexplained officials in suits. Meanwhile, the street names Robert gave and the names of the police officer involved all actually checked out. The details are legit. Richard Hall spoke to the granddaughter of Sergeant Brooks and she could remember being evacuated in 1940. Richard checked the electoral roll and found further residents Anne, Lily and John Anderson who also recalled being evacuated at the time Robert had suggested. Quite the coincidence, right?
The problem I have with that
There's no problem, sir.
is that you're
Problem.
asking, these people are saying that they remember being evacuated at the time.
Mm-hmm.
War.
What do you mean, sir? War podcast.
So
Yes, anyway.
there could be plenty of times for them to be evacuated that have nothing to do with this and have plenty to do with war, but they are going to recall being evacuated around that time. Now, if they would have said, can you recall being evacuated on March the 13th?
Look,
Because a small boy was chased by an alien grey, and they turned around and said, yes, I remember being evacuated on April 13th because a small boy was chased by an alien grey, and they went, ha! I never said April! Then we go, bullshit.
Well, all right. Granted, you may have found a slight problem, but leaving that to one side,
Let's Tipex over that.
we're just going to cut the last 2-3 minutes of audio. Snip, snip.
Oh, so they remember being evacuated.
Absolutely.
Snipped my memory, not the audio.
You may have ruined half of the next section, sir. but fair play. On that note, looking to the less convincing side to this story, unfortunately, none of the other children who saw the craft in the alley, according to Robert, came forward. So we have a fair few people who remember being evacuated, but that's about it for corroboration of the wider extraterrestrial details. Ernie was too old and not of sound mind or had passed away, meaning that Ernie's recollection couldn't be sought. Too much time has passed. So, theories. This was 1940. People could have been evacuated due to the Second World War. You didn't see that coming, did you? You just didn't. You didn't. This could be a 5-year-old trying to make sense of traumatic memories of that time, and this became that 5-year-old's reality. I did a little actual research myself, and found that between 1939 and 1940, school children were evacuated from Gateshead to Northallerton, then North Riding of Yorkshire, most of whom returned to Gateshead by early 1940 after a lack of air raids. That may just explain why people remember being evacuated. War, rather than a local alien invasion. What if that trauma, rather than the war, is actually that Uncle Eugene damn well killed a man. Did Eugene whack somebody and roll up the body just like some kind of mobster? Maybe that could also explain the random suits Rhoda Hall remembers turning up at the family home after Robert's experience. Was the Hall family full of mobsters? Robert was a window cleaner by trade and had 4 children and 3 grandchildren. He comes across as pretty believable and has maintained this story, but what may swing my BS radar is that Robert had also claimed to a different researcher years earlier, around 2003, that Robert originated the term little green men, saying that he referred to the creatures he witnessed as little grey men but was misheard. Obviously, we have covered the origin of little green men previously.
I have a question. Who is Eugene?
Oh, crap. Ernie, sorry. Good call, sir. My apologies.
I was going to say, with it being war, I wondered if what Robert was chased by could have been a dog that had been injured by something and he just happened to go near it. But I suppose if a building gets blown up, because I was thinking that the dog being grey was because it was covered in dust or something, and it was probably gone too close to where it was, and it just tried to chase him off. Or to eat him, dogs. But then, yeah, with there being no explosions or anything around, that was just a wild theory in my head. But he could have been chased by a wild animal. He just assumes it to be
a wild alien animal.
Yep. But, like you said, the swing of the BS radar.
Yeah, it's swinging.
And the moment you said a 5-year-old earlier on,
you were out.
How does a 5-year-old remember all this detail?
That is a good question, sir. Yeah.
Because it's a lot of detail.
When you remember things at that kind of age, you fill in the blanks.
Mm-hmm. I can barely remember last week, let alone 400 years ago.
This again, hey? Before we summarise today's case, I'm just going to show Mr. Moonwalker a small clip of a probing of this case via Rich Planet Starship. They go over the details before Robert goes looking for witnesses still around today, and that's where we're going to watch.
Ooh.
Check this out, Mr. Moonwalker. So we'll link to this in our research notes, and we'll start at about 17 minutes and 18 seconds into the show for this clip.
I love the fact that you're like, we'll start about. No, we will start at.
Well, that would rely on you clicking exactly on 17:18 at first click.
Yeah.
How reliable are your fingers?
Very. 17:18.
I've already heard about 3 different bits of music.
No, you fucking haven't.
Those fingers have missed.
To be fair, I let it load.
I'm not sure you're the one.
We'll go 17:17.
There's no man there.
There's an old man there.
I'm not sure you're the one. Are you got a generator in your garden? How old are you?
73 or 4.
He's not even sure how old he is.
The one.
No.
1940 with the aliens.
No.
I think we've spoken to you, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've actually spoken to this gentleman there, Robert.
Newcastle.
There was a bloke 2 years older than me,
I don't know.
and I think they were Catholic, I'm not sure. And he had a generator in his garden, and I used to go and get his glass batteries out of the road at the shop in the corner.
Aye.
Facing Mona Hollands, you know?
Aye.
You know what I mean?
But really, I'm a long here. I didn't move down to this until 1964, 1965.
Robert, there's nobody in this street who lived here in 1940.
I'm the oldest one in this street.
He's really trying, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
But I've never heard of that before, you know.
This is one of the creatures while I'm here. About 18 of them.
Call them the batteries.
But 18 of them.
where there were glass batteries for the radio. You know, in them old days they had glass like a, is it like a...
Accumulator.
Alright, an accumulator, yeah.
They were like a house brick, size of a house brick, not heavy, and they used to have spooky meters at the end of the street. Oh yeah. And a lot of hell of a lot more than that. But I thought it was that shed here when you come?
Oh, you'll have him.
There's a one like that, he had this basic...
So
He's really trying, isn't he?
yeah, that's my perception, is that he's
really
trying to convince an older chap that the chap moved to the area 20 years before he actually did, to corroborate his story. But Robert is an older chap himself, and he doesn't really have much to gain from lying either.
No.
So I don't know whether he's trying to find a supporting witness for nefarious reasons so much as to validate what he remembers.
Yeah, that could
But
be.
he might, and there's a psychological phenomena behind this, but when you do fill in the blanks in your memory, that does become your memory and your reality.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, so he might be trying to validate what he really believes, truly, when it didn't frickin' happen. But it might have.
Oh, it's just really weird when he just went, there's an old fella.
Just pick the first person he saw.
But then he was like, we've spoke to him already.
Yeah. So that crew went up and down that street looking for people who might have been around at the time, basically.
Oh, the fact that there's no one there that was around that time. But moving to the area, he also said, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
And I would have thought that would have been a local thing that
Absolutely.
people would have spoken of.
Yeah, if there was some sort of alien incident where you lived, usually you're aware of it.
Maybe not you directly, but yeah, you would speak.
You'd have heard of
You
it.
spoke
yeah.
to neighbours, you would have heard of it around the area, stuff like that.
In summary, we've covered the case of Robert Hall. In 1940, Robert was watching soldiers prepare for war with his friend when the boys saw a semi-transparent force field. Inside, there was an egg-shaped craft and about 20 alien beings including Greys, sexy Nordics and Big Feet. The aliens asked if they could examine Robert and friend. Robert said no, but the aliens took Robert up and probed away anyway, taking samples from Robert's neck. After releasing Robert, he took a white square device from the tool belt of one of the aliens and zapped a barking dog, which immediately became chill before Robert ran home and told his parents. I'll just add here that I definitely didn't omit any details I may or may not have just shared from the main bulk of this episode because they lend themselves to high degrees of skepticism. When Robert told his mum and dad, his parents assumed it was a soldier prank until Men in Black turned up at their front door and warned Robert to keep it on the hush. A few days later, a grey alien burst out and chased Robert, trying to snatch him. Luckily, Robert's uncle Ernie, for some reason I've started calling him Eugene halfway through my research notes, but Ernie was nearby and cracked the alien with a coal shovel. The body was wrapped in a sack and the army came and evacuated the area before the army did a sweep of the neighbourhood. The army took the alien body. When this report was analysed in later years, several witnesses did remember being evacuated, but this was war times, so we could explain that with, the war. Whilst researchers did find that Robert's details stacked up, none of the witnesses who saw the aliens came forward. We theorise as to whether this one was aliens, a 5-year-old trying to make sense of the war, straight up BS, or whether Uncle Ernie / Eugene killed a man. Is there anything you'd like to delve back over, Mr. Moonwalker, before you conclude that this one was indeed aliens?
The white square device being taken from the tool belt and zapping a barking dog, that one.
Yeah, we covered that in detail. And I remember you actually saying, word for word, holy shit, this is the most convincing evidence I have ever seen.
Do I know why that is bullshit? You could have said...
Actually, I don't.
You could have said anything else there, and it probably could have been something I said, but saying the H word and then swearing is something I don't do.
Is it now?
It is.
I did not know this. How can I use this to my advantage later down the line?
Even saying JC is something I don't do.
Did the initials count?
No.
What about if you say a word in the middle, like
So
Jesus Titty Christ?
It's nothing to do with what I believe, but my nan was very
You were brought up
religious.
that way, yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, it was something I never said in front of her, therefore just never said it, and still to this day, just don't. I don't swear in front of my parents either.
I rarely do, and I tend to say crikey, which makes me almost Australian, rather than Jesus Christ.
Whereas my sisters will just let
Fly.
I keep going to say swear words. They will just let shit fly. F-bombs, all the other bombs. And I'm just like, nope, I'm a good boy.
So if I cut the word holy and then you saying the word shit and put them together and replayed it back to you 37 times, how would you feel?
Oh, it'd be absolutely fine because no, I never said it.
Right, we're getting sidetracked. Are you saying that it was aliens?
No.
Oh, I thought I had you there.
He's, like you said, he's so old and he seems so desperate for people to believe him. I do wonder if it's a case of him trying to put together something that happened when he was a kid and it's left such an imprint on his brain that all he wants to do is know the truth.
Yeah.
And get other people to corroborate it.
Yeah. That's kind of where I fall down as well. For me, it's either a case of absolute lies for Robert's amusement, or Robert's been telling himself that this happened for so long that he's actually created memories, when what actually happened is that the uncle whacked a guy. I've got nothing to add.
Have you looked up if someone got whacked and if Uncle Ernie was implicated at all?
I looked up the family and couldn't find anything. I didn't look up random people getting whacked.
Around the same time?
No,
Or
but
that
nothing
could just
came
be
out through my related
down to
research
war.
of 1940s Gateshead. Anything to add, Mr. Moonwalker, or should we get the hell out of here before relatives of the uncle come for us?
Let's go.
Woo! That is a wrap for today. Thank you for listening.
I'm Funaki.
If you want to hear some more of us, not just more, but the secret stuff that nobody can know about, you can know about it by heading on over to patreon.com/ButItWasAliens. There, each month, we release bonus episodes, otherwise known as side probes, where we probe paranormal mysteries, conspiracies, and history too grotty for the general public's ears.
On the side.
You can gain access to these episodes for quite literally less than a cup of coffee. You can share episode suggestions with us on the application formerly known as the Twitter at But It Was Aliens. You can also say hello on Facebook.
Hi.
We're connected to But It Was Aliens is a secretly public private group called Extraterrestrial Towers. Being a member of Extraterrestrial Towers grants you protection from the aliens when they invade. There is a force field in front of the towers, and sure, you can walk straight through it, but it's there for your protection. We also take anything from you that could be used as a weapon before you enter, but promise you that no harm might come to you inside. You may not see your valuables again, but you are safe. That is it for this episode, so until next time, if you doink in VR, does it count? Ask him for a friend. The truth is up there. Hashtag.
Right. So you mentioned just then that we will take anything from you that could be used as a weapon.
Uh-huh.
So you're aware that I took my niece to Harry Potter World recently.
Yes, I am.
And
I'm acutely aware, in fact.
when you go in, they have to search your bags, all
Okay,
of that.
yep.
And she had a little bag with her for like keep her drinking and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And she was like, "Can I give the lady my bag?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course you can." So she pops it up, and the lady's like, "Can you open the bag for me?" She's like, "Yeah, I've got this in there, I've got that in there. I haven't got any weapons."
Makes you think she's got weapons.
And he was like, "I've got a wand."
Pulled out a wand, cast a few spells.
Oh, it just cracked me up. "I haven't got any weapons."
Oh, dear. Toodle pip.
Hi.